name of this conference is How to Fight for Joy, or When I Don't Desire God. And I said that the aim is not to increase your comforts, but to sustain the sacrifice of love. And I hope that's plain. I said also that the aim is to join God in displaying His glory in the world, because God is most glorified in us when we are most satisfied in Him. And so the pursuit of our joy in Him is a pursuit of His glory. And then we began some clarifications. There are 4 of them. We did one last night, and there are 3 more. The one last night was the fight for joy is a fight for joy in God. It's not a fight for joy in general. I remember one conversation I had with a seminary president critiquing the term and the vision that I called Christian hedonism. And he had it fixed in his mind that the philosophical meaning for the word hedonism was that happiness becomes the criterion for right and wrong. And that is one of the historic meanings for the word hedonism. A hedonist, in the old Greek sense, was somebody who said, whatever makes you happy is right, and whatever makes you unhappy is wrong. And so he took that definition and put it on my term and said, that's a bad idea, Piper. You shouldn't be promoting Christian hedonism. And my response is that Christian hedonism does not make happiness the measure of right and wrong. Christian hedonism makes God the measure of right and wrong and says it's a sin to be unhappy about that. That's real serious. Christian hedonism makes God and His Word the measure of right and wrong, whether you like it or not, and it's a sin not to like it. Therefore, I am on a crusade to help people break free from that terrible sin of being out of sorts with God's authority over their lives. Christian hedonism does not make a God out of happiness. It says, whatever makes you most happy is your God. And that's serious, because our churches are filled with people for whom God is not their portion. Their portion. Whom have I in heaven but Thee? And on earth there's nothing I desire besides Thee is flat out false for almost everybody. What in the world did David mean by that when he wrote that in Psalm 73? Or Psalm 16, preserve me, O God, for in You I take refuge. I say to the Lord, You are my Lord. I have no good apart from You. There's another one. So Christian hedonism is on a crusade to cause people not to dislike God's being all in all, but to be ravished by the sight of God as absolutely authoritative, absolutely sovereign, absolutely just, wise, true, loving, powerful. It's a sin not to like that. Therefore, we fight for joy. That was clarification number 1. Namely, it's joy in God, not joy in general, that we're fighting for. Here's clarification number 2. We must fight even though joy is spontaneous. and a divine gift. Joy in God is a fruit of the Holy Spirit. Galatians 5:22. You can't make it happen immediately. I held up my little finger last night. No matter how I feel, I can say finger go down, finger go up, finger go down, finger go up. That's amazing. I don't know how the brain works. But I cannot do that when I get up feeling glum in the morning. Feel happy, feel happy, feel happy. And it doesn't work like that for you or me or anybody. It's a gift. It rises spontaneously in response to things. You don't make it happen when it happens. It happens. Joy happens. That'd be a good bumper sticker. So why must we then fight for it? This word fight. I don't like that word. Don't turn the Christian life into a fight. I like your joy talk. I don't like your fight talk. When you put them together, I get confused. Why must we fight? So I'm going to go back where I began with 1 Corinthians 1:24, 2 Corinthians 1:24. Not that I lord it over your faith. Actually, he says we. Not that we lord it over your faith, but we are workers with you for your joy. And that word workers, laborers, is another way of another way of saying what I mean by fight. Fighters, workers. It wouldn't make you any happier to say joy is work than it would to say joy is a fight. But Paul says that, and he's got God inspiring him, and so I know this is work. I know this is a fight from 2 Corinthians 1:24. And here's a part of that verse that I have left out. Let me read it again, putting in the part I left out. Not that we lord it over your faith, but we work with you for your joy, for you stand firm in your faith. So he sandwiches joy with faith on either side. And in fact, he seems to use them almost interchangeably, doesn't he? I mean, wouldn't you expect him to say this? Not that we lord it over your faith, but we are workers with you for your faith. That's what you'd expect him to say, and he doesn't say that. He substitutes joy for the word faith in that second clause. Not that we lord it over your faith, we are workers with you for your joy, as though faith and joy are overlapping realities. They are so interwoven, Paul can almost use them interchangeably. Not entirely, but they overlap, which suggests to me, and I do believe this is the case, that an essential element of faith is joy, delight. Here's a verse I would put as support for that from John 6, verse 35. Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall never thirst. Now notice the parallel of those two halves. I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never hunger. And then parallel, whoever believes, now you got faith paralleling come. Come to me that you not hunger. Believe in me that you not thirst. So here's my definition of faith on the basis of John 6:35. Believing in Jesus is a coming to Jesus so as to find your heart hunger and heart thirst satisfied. That's believing. Therefore, I cannot separate saving faith from a heart satisfaction in Jesus as my treasure. I do not conceive of any Christian on planet Earth who says, I am saved by faith and Jesus is not my treasure. That is a oxymoron statement to me. That makes no sense, and I would call a person like that into question. I would say, I'm not sure you're a Christian. You might be, because your words may not tell the truth about your heart. But those words are not describing a Christian. I put my faith in Jesus, and He is not my treasure. I have no affection for Him as a treasure. That's not a Christian in my judgment. And I base it on a text like John 6:35. I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger. It does something to your soul hunger when you come for salvation. Whoever believes, and believing and coming are parallel words there, shall never thirst. Now, the reason I point out the connection between joy and faith and their interwovenness in Paul's mind and Jesus' mind is that we're told explicitly in the Bible to fight for faith. And if joy is an essential element of faith, then the fight for joy follows from 1 Timothy 6:12. So I'll read that. 1 Timothy 6:12, fight the good fight of faith. Take hold of eternal life to which you were called. So there he's talking in terms of exhortation to Timothy. And then he gets to the end of 2 Timothy and he bears witness to his own life. And you remember what he says in 2 Timothy 4:7. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. In Paul's mind, the Christian life is war. And if you want to simply coast in this culture which is drifting hellward, that's where you'll go. But if you're willing to swim and fight, then you might find your joy in another place than where this culture finds it, and thus become very useful in the Disneyland of the world called America. But if you just join the crowd and drift in your so-called Christianity, you will be of no use to them. It is a long and hard battle. Listen to this amazing word from Jesus in Matthew 24:12. Because lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. That's Matthew 24:12 and 13. He's talking about the end of the age. As we move toward the end of the age, he says, the love of many in Greenville, the love of many in Minneapolis, Dallas, Atlanta, Houston, LA, New York, Chicago, Boston, the love of many will grow cold. But those who endure in what? Hotness will be saved. That's right. I mean, he's talking about love in terms of its temperature, not just its commitment. So many people just dumb love down to behavior. Doesn't matter what you feel, just do nice things for people and you're a loving person. That cannot be true in view of 1 Corinthians 13. If I give away my body to be burned and all that I have and have not love, I am nothing. You can't equate love and behavior. Otherwise, 1 Corinthians 13 makes zero sense. Love is also the heart, caring about people, loving zealously, warmly, affectionately, our Maker and our Redeemer. And this is going to grow cold toward the end in many people. But those who endure, and all I'm pointing out is the fight is a fight not to grow cold. It's a fight to delight with red-hot passion in God to the end. And I'm 59, and when those of you come up and shake my hand at the end of these things, and sometimes with tears say, I pray for you almost every day that you not fall. I thank you. Few things make me more excited than the thought that I might finish well. I was sitting down there singing, He's my portion, He's my portion. I thought, wouldn't it be great just to have a heart attack? I know I'm strange and things like that. I think about death a lot because few things make me more serious about my own walk with God than to think that in about 30 seconds I might face Him. If that doesn't make you serious, what would it be? And it's true every minute of your life. So that point about Matthew 24 is just to say that the fight is real, it's long, it's serious, and it's about joy. Because love growing cold, I think, is a way of saying love going joyless. So the question is, how in the world do you put together spontaneity and gift for joy and fight and work and endurance? I mean, those two things just seem so opposite in our experience. In fact, they're so opposite in our experience, people theologically make two kinds of mistakes here. One is they say, joy can't be essential because it is commanded by God, and therefore it has to be icing on the cake. It has to be a caboose at the end of the train. It has to be optional for stoical personalities. It can't be essential because it's commanded and you don't have control over it. If you don't have control over it, it can't be essential. And that's one mistake. And here's another one. Joy must be under our immediate control because it is commanded. Now, there's a framework of mind operating with those two mistakes. And it's the framework of mind that says God cannot be just if He requires from me what I do not have immediate power to perform. God cannot be just if He requires of me, demands of me something that I, in my own native, immediate willpower, can't do. That's a mistaken assumption. That's an unbiblical assumption. It's an assumption that pervades the American church and which causes people to make hash out of the Bible and become mistaken in so many theological ways. Romans 8:7 says, "For the mind that is set on the flesh is hostile to God. It does not submit to God's law. Indeed, it cannot." So the mind of the flesh, and that's the mind that every human has since Adam and Eve fell. All of us came into this world not spiritual beings, but what Paul calls natural beings. And he says in 1 Corinthians 2:14, the natural person does not receive the things of the Spirit of God. They are folly to him. He's unable to understand them because they are spiritually discerned. So here I am, born to Bill and Ruth Piper, a fallen human being, natural in my mind, not spiritual, and therefore hostile to God. And so were all of you born that way. Dead in your trespasses and sins, natural, regarding as folly everything that God says was good for you. We're dead. We are blind.